We've all heard the expression, you can judge a tree by the quality of its fruit, right? No? You haven't heard that? In farm country, that's pretty common. So. Well, that's also how we can judge the merits of religious science. The fruit of our labor is in our expression of affirmative prayer. If you've followed this teaching for very long at all, you probably either experienced or know someone that had a healing occur that most people would consider miraculous. We know them for what they are, these healings, and that is just expressions of our true nature. That's what they are. So the topic today is how to give a spiritual mind treatment. The outline was submitted by Reverend Brian Akers, who's senior minister at the Wholeness Center for Spiritual Living in Colombia. I'm not sure if that's nation, Colombia, or a city somewhere that I don't know about. And the August focus for the whole month is the form of spiritual mind treatment. In this thing called you, Dr. Holmes shared this. It is not the form of the treatment which you give, or the prayer which you make, that gives it power. Rather, it is your faith that gives it the power. Now, the history of the New Thought movement is filled with the works of those who literally created the movement. And maybe some of you will know these names, some of you won't. It started with a man named Phineas Quimby, who became an amazing mental healer. And he went on to teach Mary Baker Eddy, who founded Christian Science movement. And she had a student, Emma Curtis Hopkins, who became the teacher of teachers. She taught our founder, Dr. Holmes, as well as the Fillmores, who founded Unity Churches. And then there was another third group that I can't recall. But when we speak of a spiritual mind treatment, we often use the term prayer or affirmative prayer interchangeably with science of mind treatment. And regardless of which term you use to describe it, the core purpose is the same. It's to do one thing and one thing only. Cultivate your faith. That's it. The science of mind states that the creative experience of our life is a direct result of our belief. In other words, our life is a result of the things we actively or passively choose to place our faith in. That's our choice, actively or passively. In the Science of Mind textbook, Dr. Holmes says, we have nothing new. We simply have a new approach to an old truth, a more intelligent, a more systematic way of consciously arriving at faith. Now, treatment or affirmative prayer is a specific tool that we use to move and shift our faith away from things that no longer serve us or that we no longer desire. It may be to change existing conditions or to bring about a completely new experience in our lives altogether. We have that power. And while this tool isn't the only way to cultivate faith or to change our mind, it's the only one that was developed with our teaching in mind. It's a literal reiteration of all of our spiritual principles. And I've pointed to the logo before. I'm not going to go into all the details. But when you understand that logo, you know this is an all-encompassing teaching. It's a way of reiterating the truth and inspiring new thought in ourselves as we seek to co-create with spirit. In Living the Science of Mind, in an article, Treatment Deals with Thought, Dr. Holmes said this: treatment deals with thoughts rather than with people. We must be careful never to associate a negative condition with the person who suffers from it. It does not belong to your patient nor to anyone else. Between prayers, try to keep your mind poised in such a way that you do not contradict what you have said in your treatment. Keep your mind open all the time to a divine influx of new inspiration, new power, and most importantly, a new life. What we affectionately call the spiritual mind treatment is how we remind ourselves of our entire faith. And there's an acronym. We remember it as, are you ready to receive? RURTR. And it stands for recognition, unification, realization. Oh, as I typed this, I wrote unification twice. There's only one. Thanksgiving and release. That's the 5. RURTR. One of my ministers in Vegas has that as her Nevada issued license plate. RURTR. So if you see it, say hi. You know she's a minister. The first step, recognition, tells us there is a God. There is one God. We recognize that. Unification reminds us of our connection to Spirit. We are an embodiment of that God. And in Living the Science of Mind, Dr. Holmes says, we must enter into a feeling of assurance that comes from a consciousness of the divine presence in, around, and through you. End quote. Realization, the third step. That inspires the power of our word and the clarity of our right action. Thanksgiving, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's our expression of gratitude. And that invites our conviction and acceptance that it's already complete. It's done. And release reminds us to surrender the outcome to the law of the universe. As I surrendered to whatever's going to play on that video in the morning. In the textbook, Science of Mind, Dr. Holmes says, always come to a complete conclusion when giving a treatment. Always feel that it is done, complete, and perfect. And give thanks for the answer. The treatment should be repeated daily until a healing takes place. If it takes 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, or 5 years, the treatment must be kept up until a healing is accomplished. That is the only method we know. And as practitioners, we're taught that if we can't feel it, we have to do a treatment first for ourselves until we can feel the truth. Persistence is often required to change our minds. If you don't get the mindset, and you don't get it overnight. So it may take a whole series of spiritual mind treatments to change your beliefs. Every single person in this room can do a spiritual mind treatment. You do not have to be a practitioner. In fact, I will venture to say many of you are accomplished at doing these treatments. Much better than I am. I know who you are. And there's no other practice that defines religious science more than these affirmative prayers or spiritual mind treatments. Prayer or treatment is not special in any way. Nobody is a better prayer than anybody else. It's not a secret handshake with God. It's not an attempt to beg or plead your case, to make a deal. It's not a hope that something will happen, to get God to do this or that. We don't give God orders. We don't beg God. But we can use God. We can manifest God. We're not asking God to change anything because God's already whole and perfect. So what is it we would change? No, what we want is to recognize the truth, the existence of the perfection that Spirit already is within each and every one of us. We don't need to be poets to pray well, so long as we inspire ourselves to do what is ours to do in our own life. Prayer has power. We shouldn't get wrapped up in doing it right, but rather in cultivating the faith. The more we can feel the belief of our convictions and the desire, the more it will inspire us to choose it. Even when conditions tell us that's not going to happen. We know better. In Living the Science of Mind, Dr. Holmes says, the treatment should be simple, unlabored, calm, but designed to convince the thoughts of the one who gives it. We're not trying to treat our client, we're treating ourselves. So long as you're feeling more and more convinced that you have the power to create the desire and that the law is there to assure you even greater success, you are praying right. What Spirit responds to is not the voice in our mind or the words that we use to describe our desire. The law responds to who we actually choose to be from the inside out. Our prayer is an attempt to inspire ourselves to embody whatever it is we desire. We have to become it. We must feel the truth of who we are and then let it guide us. As we commit to our faith in the purity and power of that inner knowing, and we demonstrate it in our lives, the universal law responds to our convictions by conforming the whole world around us to who we've become. The practitioner knows that the treatment will reach the person for whom he is working without any further effort on his part. That's it. Once we release it into the universal law, we know there's a divine conspiracy at that point for our good. Thoughts accumulate to build beliefs. Beliefs result in automatic behaviors. When we're secure in the knowledge, our faith in our treatments becomes equivalent to the faith we have when we turn a light switch on. If you're an NV Energy customer, you have faith. You flip that light switch, power will be on. If it doesn't work, you're surprised. Well, that's the way our treatments have to be. If it doesn't work, we're surprised and we keep going. Like I said, 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days. Yes, we are a new thought community, but we are practicing ancient wisdom. I've said that many times. And as proof, I want to share a quote of ancient wisdom with you that has inspired me for years. It's titled, Watch Your Thoughts. Many of you will know this one. Watch your words. They become actions. Watch your actions. They become habits. Watch your habits. They become character. Watch your character. It becomes your destiny. That is a quote from Lao Tzu, a Chinese philosopher who died in 531 BC. So that was 2,500 years ago. It's our new thought community. It's the exact same stuff. New thought, ancient wisdom. And Lao Tzu wasn't the only one who expressed this. 2,500 years after he did, Ernest Holmes stated, "We are bound by our own thought world. Nothing can save us but ourselves. The individual who will learn how to consciously change his thinking can remold his destiny." Kind of the same thing. So we're never at the mercy of outer forces. Our inner thoughts and own emotions build our consciousness, and that becomes the law in our lives, the universal law. So we must pay attention how we do this. Think, feel positively. Surround yourselves with positive people, which you all have done this morning. I can tell because everybody here is happy. But you have to develop that inner confidence in yourself and in spirit operating through us as law. That is the entire key to our teaching. Thoughts become things. If you want to change your life, change your thinking. So, prayer is a tool. The more we practice with it, the better we get at convincing ourselves of the truth and that that tool works. The more convinced we are, the more faith we have. When we practice prayer regularly, it goes from being a tool to becoming a power tool. The key to prayer has less to do with the words than with the feelings, the emotions, and everything to do with convincing ourselves to have more and more faith in the good of the universe and the potential of our own divinity. Now, most of us can't jump into this faith in this power tool that we have available through affirmative prayer. It takes a step-by-step, incremental approach for many of us. Others jump right in. They've had the faith, they've had the proof, the strength of conviction. But for others, that's why we stress the value of meditation, journaling, inspirational reading, meeting with like-minded people. These are the ways you move incrementally within your own faith, within your own conviction, to strengthen your faith to becoming a power tool. The great master teacher, Jesus, said something, and I'm quoting this from memory, so if he had the faith of a mustard seed, you could say unto the mountain, remove yourself, and it would be gone. So if Jesus says faith is that important, then I think we can believe it. Accept that. When we give a treatment, we're operating at the level of mind plus thought with feeling. The sole purpose is to convince the one doing the treatment of its truth. And that's us. We don't change spirit by our treatments. Spirit's whole, perfect, and ever-growing, expanding. We change our own minds, and the conditions change as a result of that shift. So I have a final affirmation that I'd like to share with you here, following along these lines. My words and actions are a direct reflection of my faith. With every prayer, I embody an even greater sense of my own divinity. Beginning right now, I commit to doing my spiritual practices faithfully, consistently, and with deep intention and attention. I am changing for the better. I'm open to love, compassion, prosperity, and joy in my life right now. And so it is.
So it is.
Namaste.